Welcome to Inspiring Victory, where we help you inspire others and double your business in 1 year or less. And today I'm really excited because we have Eric Lazar, who is one of my favorite friends and super, super smart. So we're really, really happy to have you here. Thank you for being here. Yay.
Thanks so much, Sarah. I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, it's always nice to see you. And you have so many interesting secrets about, how to market and how to do trade shows. And I know you guys do a lot of really big displays and things. And so I wanted to talk to you about some of those things right away. I was really interested because we were talking recently about trade shows, and I know you do a lot of big ones. Can you give us one, two, three secrets to really making a trade show work for you and making a trade show, get you more business and making more successful as a company?
Sure. The trade shows, there's so much clutter. You could have tens, if not hundreds, and then some of the big ones, thousands of people exhibiting, not to mention just the graphics for the show itself. So it's really important to be big and bold. Think about the space that even if it's, a very small 10-foot by 10-foot space, is what do you do to break through the clutter as you're going up and down the rows? What's going to compel somebody to stop? So we think bold, we think dimensional, and also lighting it doesn't have to just be that simple backdrop that most people are used to. Bring those elements front and center. It doesn't, and front and center, could be as simple as another banner stand, but if you think about perhaps stacked boxes or cutouts, that it's not just dimension in terms of just coming forward, but giving it shape. And then adding lighting to it, because the lighting is really what captures people's eyes. And one of the things that we always say, just in general, when we do graphics, is really this 360 degree perspective to create surface impact. So think about the flooring. That's a great opportunity for branding. Think about tabletops, that if you're even getting a simple bridge table or, little, bar table, is branding that. A couple of those small elements, even on a limited budget, will really help you break through the clutter.
Those are wonderful. Those are really, really excellent. And I love when you see, like, rather than a bunch of little tiny things that you can't really see what you're seeing, like you said, lighting makes a big difference with that. But one big, bold statement that is going to grab people. And I think if you think to what are the questions that you get all day long, people, oh, hey, I really need to know how to do X. I'm sure in your business, you've got the same people asking this, people asking the same questions day after day after day. And if you can make a big, bold banner, especially if it's 3D, I never thought of the dimensionality and the floor and, just in boxes and just that 3D element would be very interesting. But having one bold thing that answers that need or that want or that desire or that concern can really get more people coming to your booth than to anybody else's booth,
Yeah.
especially if it's something everybody there needs and wants. Yeah.
Absolutely. An element of interactivity is also not a bad thing. That if you have, an iPad on a pedestal, particularly if you can capture information. I mean, a lot of times you can just scan somebody's badge, but they don't want to be scanned. But if you're doing something interactive where they're inputting it, that's also interesting, where they can engage, particularly in a software, or if there is a video of some kind, you could think about that, deploying monitors within the booth, showing that video where people are stopping and looking. Certainly food.
It's interesting that if you have fun things for people to take or play with or eat, like you
Right.
said, even who doesn't like a Reese's peanut butter cup? They're just so good. And again, then they're more likely to want to stay and maybe look at your video for you or to answer a question that you might ask or interact with you. And I think also just being a kind, interested person, I think the quality of your life will be determined by the quality of your questions. I mean, if there's an interesting video going there and you can ask some sort of interesting question that doesn't feel invasive or like you're interrogating the person,
Right.
you can have a much bigger impact. It's better to connect with fewer people, but really have
That they're
some sort of
quality people, right? They're quality
the
conversation.
quality people. Yeah. And if you could find out if they're in your psychographic and demographic obviously being are they the size business or the type business that you're looking for? And then psychographic, are they the kind of people that you have similar values with, your company's values are similar to their company values or to their personal values? That can make a pretty big difference too. What are you looking for? Are there people you're looking to meet? Are there kinds of companies or kinds of, you're looking for investors or whatever it is? And then do your best to say, hey, if you give me your info, if I find somebody like that, I will help you. All of a sudden, again, you're coming in as the buyer saying, hey, I have a big network. Let me help you by telling me what you're looking for. I've been all over this place, or I know a lot of people here if you do. So again, always coming in with something to offer.
Well, you think about years ago, that's how we met, is just through networking here.
Yeah,
You're networking in Chicago, and it's, how can I open my network to you? It was never,
right.
asking what you could do for me. It's, hey, Sarah, listen, I know a lot of people. Who are the kinds of people that you want to get connected with?
You always know the coolest people on the planet. So every time you say
I
you
know a
know this
couple of them.
person, I mean, cool people
Right.
know cool people. So you find I always say, look around the room, and if you just pick out the coolest person in the room and the person you'd most to be like someday, and you ask them, if they can help you find what you're looking for, they're going to introduce you to people that aren't just in the right demographic, but are also in that right psychographic, and are people that are wonderful human beings you can't wait to spend time with. So, the more you can expand your network while you're there,
Right.
the better you're going to do with it.
100%.
So I think a lot of people think in terms of just, oh, I need to reach thousands and thousands of people, but you really don't. You reached five of the right people in a 3-day conference, and they
It's
can
much
change
more
your whole
impactful
business.
than,
You
yep,
can change your
than
whole
having to
business.
follow up with a bunch of people that probably don't fit the profile.
It's true. It's true. And as we had talked about another time, if it's a small enough conference where you as a booth attendee, you've bought the booth, they will give you the list of who all is going to be there, who the other booths are going to be there that may also be good in your target market. You can have a list of your, wow, these top 25 would sure be the best ever for us to reach out to. And you can do that in advance. And again, if you're coming in as the buyer, not the seller, or if you're coming in with something to offer that's at least a little bit special. And you had a sort of a drip campaign technique that I really, really like. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, back in the day, prior to coming into print, when I was in mobile technology, we were a small mobile technology firm, and we used to go to a couple of conferences that generally brought between 700 and 1,000 attendees, and there might have been 200 exhibitors, and we would get the list of the attendees for the most part, both name and email, and probably that the 2 or 3 months prior to the event, we would start with a email drip campaign. We would start contacting them via phone, just introducing ourselves. And what we did is we built out a bunch of PowerPoint presentations that were, just they were all the same, except for probably about 3 pages, which would just get customized with the client's logo, and then 1 or 2 slides that were either specific to their industry or specific to their brand. And part of
Hmm.
the drip campaign was saying, we'd love to meet with you for 5 minutes or just stop by the booth. We have a custom presentation for you.
Okay. Something of value, something they can't get from everybody else. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
find also
so,
if you can also say, when we have one idea for you that we think might really help you capture an extra 10% of the market this next year, or an extra 500 clients in the next 2 years, something highly specific, 473 or some odd number. And they sometimes will come just because they're curious. Well, what was that one secret? What was that one thing you had in mind? And it may be
right.
something you tell everybody, but they don't necessarily do. So, but I love the idea custom. Like, that's
So
very
yeah.
clever. And you just had
So
to customize 3 or 4 pages or
we just
something of what
customized
they.
just a couple of slides. It was very easy
Oh,
and it was scalable.
nice.
It was a very scalable
Scalable.
process. I mean, it did
Mhm.
take us, to do, we generally targeted about 200 of these people, 200 brands that we knew that were coming, that were, fit our profile. And
Mhm.
took us a couple of months to prep all of these because there was work. It wasn't like we just printed them off, but we eventually
Yeah.
printed all of these presentations. If there were multiple representatives from the same brand, we had a couple of presentations for, brand day. When we went to the show at our booth, we had a couple of big file boxes with all of these presentations. And then we would take an extra one or two people, and we always had somebody at the booth minding that for anybody who was coming by. And the other two or three of us would be wandering the floor with walkie-talkies, headsets. And we'd say,
Oh,
okay, we had our list of all the people that we wanted to contact, like the brands that, for the presentations that we brought. And we say, okay, I spotted brand A at row one, and give them an intersection. We would have a runner that would go to the booth, pick up that presentation, and then come back to wherever we locate, where that one person sort of located that target brand, and would follow. And it's like, okay, we walked up two booths, we're at this exhibit, and then pass it off to me, and I would simply go over and introduce myself to the person. Is, hey Joe, you may recall that my name is Eric, and I said that we had a presentation for you. I just wanted to get this in your hands. And it was,
mhm.
I mean, people were absolutely astounded that we had gone through such efforts and that we truly did have a custom presentation for us. And we just developed, we got some huge brands as a result of those efforts. So, I mean, I do remember Office Max coming from there, Toys R Us coming from there. We got some really big brands as a result of doing that. And it really changed the course of our business.
Oh, congratulations. That's pretty darn impressive. Well, I love that. I think people really respond to something that is personal to them and that you took a little bit of extra time to look into them. The other thing is once you get that meeting, even if it's only 2 minutes long, you actually know something about that business because you did take the time to customize, even if it was just 2 pages.
Right.
You had to go, look at like, okay, what's their latest slogan? What's their latest target market? Or they, is there anything that they've been talking about? Any charities they're involved with? Is this particular nowadays you can look at their LinkedIn, oh, the president might be there, the vice president might be there, the marketing director might be there. Oh, what are they into? Well, you can look on their LinkedIn sometimes and see those things. And then you can say, hey, you know, does anybody know this person? Or you can look on LinkedIn and see if any, is anybody
Right.
connected to that person and ask that person for a connection. It's amazing how many times the people that know whoever your targets are. And we don't even think to go look or to go find out about them. But yeah, you know more about them and you're able to ask quality questions or have quality solutions or ideas for them. And people usually do appreciate, hey, I really looked into your business and we really do have an idea you might find interesting. And then you always have to say, well, let me ask you some questions first before I launch off with a bunch of ideas that may or may not be applicable to make sure I know what you guys are up to and find out where they want to go and make sure the ideas that you guys have are really going to be valuable to them. But I just love the customized effect and putting that time into it and something physical that they could take with them. They could do it on an iPad and hand it to them, but I like the fact that it was something physical that you really took the time to make for them and that had
It,
maybe had a 3D effect to it, lumpy, as they say in the industry.
it
Yeah.
was physical. It was handing it to them. It was just, I think there's such a difference in relationships when you're starting off with eye contact. It's,
Yeah, true.
it really is different. I mean, I think people crave that. They appreciate that. It's so easy to do things by email and it becomes so
Yeah.
impersonal. And, this was 10, 12, 15 years ago, certainly before the digital age truly arrived as it is now. It evolved as it is now. But, I think when you're, at a trade show where it can be so anonymous, even a small show, the fact that somebody actually walked up to you, introduced themselves, and was following through with a promise that they had been telling you for 3 months that they were going
Oh,
to do, and that they know that you had to locate them. It's still not an easy task. I mean, it took three of us walking the floor using walkie-talkies and then you're handing some. They're open. I mean, it's really quite an amazing experience that all of a sudden that all these people that have been courting them and trying to get them to stop by the booths. We just found the secret sauce that really opened up these conversations and probably gave us an edge to punch a little bit above our weight. We probably had no business talking to these companies, but I think they saw us with a level of integrity and enthusiasm and effort that other more established companies in our space were probably not willing to give.
And that, I think those things are things that are valuable, as valuable as now as they were 15 years ago. I mean, and they will be in 50 or 100 or 200 years from now. I don't think
Right.
anybody ever gets tired of having somebody put in time, attention, and care, as well as show integrity, and which is exactly
Right.
what you guys were doing. You promised certain things, and then you found a way to deliver, which involved needing to, yeah, nowadays would be texting or walkie-talkies or whatever is required. I love that. I love that campaign. I love that idea. And I think everybody tends to go for the biggest companies in the place. And you guys were able to find some of the biggest and obviously some of the best and land them, which is wonderful. I also find that sometimes if you go after sort of the second tier in size,
Mhm.
not everybody at the show is trying to hit them up. So
Right.
sometimes if you go just ever so slightly smaller, maybe names that aren't necessarily as well known, sometimes you can get in the door if you're really new and aren't as established as you guys probably were by that point, somewhat established. So that can be really
Well,
helpful.
it's a lot easier to navigate organizations like that. There are less decision makers that are involved in the
Also true.
process. And we
Mhm.
certainly had a lot of success with, I guess, those, I wouldn't call them second tier necessarily, but perhaps
Right. Just in
they're,
size, not in
yeah,
not in value, not
yeah.
in value, just but in sheer size. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I bet you did. I bet you did. Well, and I know you do a lot for these trade shows. Are there any other sort of insider secrets of things that you've seen that just do not work? It's like, don't do that. We've all
I
been
think
to
the,
trade shows where we're like, what is that booth? It's either, it's empty or it's so busy you have no idea what's going. It's like a circus in there. What are the don'ts? You got any? And you gave us three do's. What are three don'ts?
don't not plan.
Good one. I like
It's,
it.
that's
Excellent.
really, we deal with that all the time as people are calling and I totally forgot, but I've got a show this week on Friday. I need a banner. Like, you've got a 10-foot booth or a 20-foot booth. Like, a banner is not going to be impactful. Like, this is, you almost do yourself a disservice because it doesn't look like you're investing in your brand and there's nothing that you're almost better off staying home, quite honestly. So I think that's really the biggest one. If you're not doing the dues, it's to me, it's like, why bother showing up? You
But putting
really,
that time into it, really, yeah,
yeah,
spent 2 3 months in advance, set yourself something, pop up on your calendar to say, go through the list of who's going to be there, pick out your top 50 or top 200, or the top 50 that are your absolute favorites, and the top 200 you're still going to market to, but may not put quite as much into, especially if it's an economic, question of how much resources that you have. But yeah, put some thought into it, put some, and I think, just, imagine you're at a booth and what are some things that could be there. And I think you could always have great ideas of what would be great visuals and what would be a way to, and where do I get lighting from? I mean, people can call you
right.
and ask your advice and you always know what to build. But yeah, I think that you have to have enough time to do it well. Otherwise, like you said, it's just a waste you may as well just go be a participant and wander around,
You can
which is
probably,
fine too. That's not,
right.
not a bad strategy too. Yeah, exactly.
Right. It's
All right.
because I think you really do your brand a disservice when you're not displaying it, you know, really to the full extent in the way that is, appropriate for your brand, shows it off in the best way. I think it does more damage. People like,
Yeah.
they're not ready for the big time. This is not who I want to align myself with. I think there's more damage than good that can be done by attending, at least as an exhibitor. And your point is you're better off walking the show floor and trying to meet people at networking meetings or sitting in and getting, taking advantage of some of the educational seminars that they have. I think it would be much more effective than putting your brand in a light that is, not commensurate with how you want to show it.
Yeah, and I think fantastic visuals can go a long way to impressing people, which is what you guys do all day long. And it does bring in a lot more business. You see the booths that have beautiful visuals and really make a statement and a splash on every surface, and thought is and care has been put into that. And you see people just running to those booths, and you see people sort of avoiding the ones where there's just, a guy standing behind a table with absolutely nothing on the
Right.
walls, or nothing on the floor, nothing on the table, just like, hi, usually sitting in a chair, not even standing out and
And that's,
engaging.
that's really important
Yeah.
also, is that,
Yeah.
being approachable, standing up,
Yes.
is,
And
is,
then you don't necessarily even have to be behind the table. I mean, some places
no,
have rules where you're supposed to, but you can go out in front, meet people, greet. I always say, just act like you're the host. You're the
right.
host on the planet. Be a kind, good person. What are you looking for here? Are there any people you want to meet? Can I help you? What do you need support on? And they look at you like, huh? And then they realize, wait, you're legit, because they've walked by 700 or 800 or 2,000 or whatever booths, and every one of them is asking them some random weird question that's just designed to make them buy something instantly. And there's again that eyeball, like you were saying, locking eyes with somebody, making a human connection, and asking a reasonable, caring, I think caring questions go a long way. And
Yeah.
I think, like you said, stand up, come out from behind whatever you're at. But I also think, your idea of having the great visuals and really putting some thought and care into, what do you want this booth to do for you? What is it? Who is it supposed to attract? Who is it, supposed to not attract? If you can have a booth that really has visuals that attract exactly the right people, better to have 50 people who all are perfect potential clients for you than 2,000 that are all wrong and not what you're looking for. And I love how your mind works with those kinds of, and then turning that into a visual format is a real art form. I love how you are able to think in those terms. Well, tell me a little bit. You guys have grown so much, obviously fastest growing, and in various magazines showing how cool you are. I was You're always cool to me, even before all the accolades. Tell me a little bit about, like, what is next for you guys? You're growing, you're expanding. Where do you see all this going? Where you're quite the visionary. What's next?
I it's really controlled growth at this point.
Good.
We've had a pretty fast, we've grown pretty fast over the last, we started this, next week will be our 9-year anniversary.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it's
Congrats.
exciting. And we've always sort of outperformed the benchmarks. We've grown very fast. I think, really it was just COVID that we got stunted. But
Like everybody. Yeah.
yeah, but basically our 2-year growth, we've grown at 105% the last 2 years.
Congrats.
So thank you, but it's a lot. And I'll tell you,
That
the
is a lot.
first year of it, of the 100, we had like 73% growth, and then we had another 16% growth. So it wasn't even the law of small numbers anymore. And that first year bump coming out of COVID really crushed us in terms of just the time and the hours. We did not anticipate that the market was going to come back so strong and that we would rebound so quickly and, with such ferocity. And so, I think at that point we were very happy for the growth, and I appreciate it greatly, and I don't take any of it for granted. And that second year, it was still double-digit growth, not nearly at that pace, but there's some. I think we've gotten to the point that we really just want to enjoy this and not think about really significant double-digit growth. Is we want to sort of set back, and now there are different processes when you begin to scale that big, and it's like, yeah, we want to grow, we always have to sort of protect against attrition. The market can change at any time, world events, there's a lot of things that could happen. So it's not that it's complacency, it's
Hmm.
just we just want to make sure that we're doing it right, and we just don't need another huge spurt. um
Well,
and we
I
want
think
our we
once you've
want our
had a
people to be
couple, you've
happy.
had a couple of those.
Yeah,
That's a lot. And
it's
I think I think it's a great Linda McCabe, speaker, author,
yeah, I know.
consultant extraordinaire who adores you. yeah, she always has two problems in business, not enough business, which most people complain about for a really long time, and then too much business.
Right.
And most people are like, oh, I'd love to have your problems. I'm like, well, until you have them. I mean, until you have to explain to somebody, you lost like two favorite employees or, things start to come apart, or you lost a big client because all of this was going on. And not being able to do things at the level of quality that you can be proud of is a big issue. And I think you were smart in that you guys really took the time to make sure you were always ahead of the curve. You always had, the most expensive machine that nobody else was buying. I remember you bought something that was like a
Yeah.
gazillion trillion dollars. And that meant that when people caught up to knowing, oh, we really need that machine, you already had one. You were already ahead of that. And you already always had, good, SOPs, standard operating procedures. And I think, but even with all the time that you guys put into having a good infrastructure, that's a really, really huge spike. But always, I think it's a good thing for people to realize, always be prepared for the next big spike, because it can happen out of the blue. If you've been working hard for a bunch of years, you can have one of these big spikes that you don't expect, and you'd better be prepared. And I've seen
Well,
too many
and
companies sort of implode because they had a big spike like that. And you guys handled it pretty gracefully, which is lovely.
it could have gone either way, quite honestly. I think, from the beginning, we always had the philosophy that we were going to one hire ahead of the curve, is because we had great faith in ourselves that we could make business happen faster than the benchmarks. So we generally kept one, a half person to a whole person more than we ever really needed. And being a small business starting out, that's a lot,
Is a lot.
to have a whole other salary. And also the equipment is, we basically had an equipment suite that, again, as a franchise or a franchisee, I can look at how others have started off. And we went in, we were the first in the company's history to start out with the equipment suite that we did. Is we bought equipment that probably no new studio, should have or ever had. But I had looked as part of my due diligence when I first started, actually post my initial buy-in, is I went and I traveled the country and I visited the top 10 studios in the system. And I wanted to see what kind of equipment they had, how they situated their people, the kinds of markets that they went after. And I wanted to build a studio that was sort of in their light. But they had been around for 8, 10, 12, 15 years or whatever it might have been. They had evolved into that. Me, it's like I wanted to be that right away. And I didn't want to have to just, begin to, to ease into equipment. It's like, let's go get it. And, our feeling was sort of like build it and they will come, and fear is a hell of a motivator. So it's like
Yes,
if I
yes.
invested in all this, like we had to make this, it had to crank out cash. But that's how we've approached it. But we've lived in fear and austerity for a very long time. Those first, 6, 7 years of business, we had
Yeah.
we had a lot of debt, and we had done things in a very, I'd say a very bullish, very aggressive manner. And at this point, it's like we want to sit back, we want to enjoy it, because as we had that first, that bump out of COVID, we crushed the team. I mean, the team was exhausted. We were working, long hours, 12, 14, 16 hours, 7 days a week, for probably 7 or 8 straight months. It was a
Oof.
lot. And everybody
And,
was on board, but
oh,
people were burnt out. And so, I'm certainly very appreciative, and I, levied all the praise I possibly could. And we certainly did our best to bonus and award people and let them know how appreciative we were, because it was, essential and instrumental to where we were at now. But the cost was probably a little bit too high. So, we're very conscious of that now.
smart, smart.
And
Yeah. No, it sounds like you learned some really interesting things from that huge bump
yeah.
coming all at once. Is there anything that you would tell somebody else who may be facing a big leap in business, like things that you would recommend? They've
Wow.
suddenly got a lot more business all at once. Is there anything you would have done differently? Is there anything you're glad you did that, that helped?
I knew in the back of my mind that we would have growth. I never expected it to be what it was. And you can't really prepare yourself. I mean, to some extent, it's like, okay, let's, maybe I should have an extra person be, sort of in advance. It's like, I know I'm putting forward these efforts and they will probably reap rewards, but it's a calculated risk. Same thing with the equipment that we purchased is we probably hadn't hit that threshold that would have warranted the equipment that we bought. But our philosophy in terms of buying equipment was that we didn't want to just do it in a small incremental manner. We always look at buying equipment as, what's the greatest amount of production per square foot that we can get? And will it allow us to grow by 2 to 3x? And really sort of that 3x point is what we had in mind. It's like, if we buy this, can we grow 3x? Will it, provide that level of productivity? We were ready on paper. I think it's really preparing yourself emotionally for what that takes is the sacrifice that you need to make. It's, they're first world problems, they're good problems, but they're problems.
It's still problems. Yeah.
It's still
Yeah.
problems. It's like not having a life where your life is your work and you become extremely one-dimensional. I mean, I am recovering from that now because that was
Mhm.
all I had in my world. It was back and forth to work and I was there all the time. My business partner, Rebecca, was there all the time. All of our coworkers were there all the time. And we sacrificed an awful lot. And I don't know if there's a way to prepare yourself emotionally for what that level of growth entails.
I
So
don't think
it's,
so. I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. And I don't think that companies prepare for recovery. I think that what they tend to do, when I see that's really smart in what you're doing, is they tend to have some big bump and big growth, big, all of a sudden it happens. They've been, fighting away for a few years and then boom, something, something big happens. They prepared for it as best as they can. But emotionally, yeah, everybody's exhausted. But I see company after company after company where the brass aren't necessarily the ones that are putting in those crazy long hours. And so rather than saying, hey, okay, now we're going to take it down to a nice, healthy pace for you folks. We've hired a couple of extra people. You guys get your weekends off. We're giving everybody an extra long weekend here, an extra week off there, whatever. Nobody plans for recovery. They just say, well, that was nice. Now let's give you an even bigger goal. Now you were there in the trenches and you were able to see what was going on with people. But it's really tempting if you're not in it every single day with people to think, wow, they could do that once. Why can't they do that all the time? Without realizing the emotional toll that you are in, the physical toll you may be taking on your people if you don't have these times of recovery that you're talking about. You're in recovery from a huge where everybody was one dimensional and nobody was getting any real free time. And the fact that they all followed you and were willing to put in those kinds of hours for the growth of the company, just that speaks volumes about what kind of a leader you are and what kind of team you've built. And the fact that you have a high enough emotional intelligence to say, hey, if I'm exhausted, these guys must be too. We're gonna pace ourselves a little better right now. That's good
yeah,
for you.
I
Very
appreciate
smart.
that. Yeah, I appreciate
Yeah,
that. And
very
that's,
smart.
one, my feeling is if the doors are open, I need to be there. And it's not as a micromanagement type of,
Mhm.
perspective. It's like, I trust my team and I trust them implicitly,
Yeah,
but
good.
I don't think it's fair to ask something of someone that you're not willing to do yourself. And it's even if I'm not actually doing production because I don't know anything about production. Like I can't run a printer is,
Right.
sad to say,
It's not
but
your expertise. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not my
Well, it's not, yeah, you're the
right.
visionary. Then you're supposed to
I
be the
tr-
chief vision
I
officer.
trust
Yeah.
them, but I can't ask them to come in or stay, come in on a weekend or stay late without me being there because it's just, even though everybody's getting paid, I think emotionally it sets the wrong tone. And,
Hmm.
going into, 2022 and 2023 were so big is that reset and recovery was really important in terms of the bonus that we gave this year is we did give cash, but it was a travel themed bonus where we gave a
Nice.
gift card for a flight. We gave a gift card for a hotel. We gave a gift card for cash and we put it in basically an overnight bag because we really wanted to encourage people to take time this year, and be whole is like, because that's really
Yeah.
important. It's like to,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
to
If you burn everybody to the ground, it's your people are these, geese that lay the golden eggs. If you
100%.
strangle all the geese, you will have no more golden eggs and you won't have any more geese, which is pretty obvious. But
And that's the
you
most
see that.
expensive
You
part of a
see that.
business. Yeah.
It
And
is. I mean, it costs what, six times as much to go
to
out and
replace,
recruit and replace
right.
and train somebody as it does to keep somebody great. And it sounds like you listened to things that they were needing, that they were wanting. I love the idea of having, giving them a travel bag that has, here's, inside is, here's your flight and here's your hotel, go wherever you want. I mean, that's pretty wonderful. Yeah. I think that's very, very clever. And also, yeah, listening to what is it that people are really wanting. I mean, and sometimes, yeah, a day off is more valuable to a team member than $500. You
Right.
don't know what they value if you don't ask. And you do have a really high emotional intelligence, and you do have the ability to really see what people are wanting and needing and care. And I think most people aren't used to working for somebody that is willing to make sure that the optics are, hey, I may not be running the printer next to you, but I'm here, I'm doing other things, and I'm supporting you in my way, and in the way that I know how. And it made you a really, really special team. And coming out of it, again, you're taking time, telling people, we actively are encouraging you to go do something fun with your families who are probably feeling a little disgruntled about you being at work every minute. So
Right.
yeah, I think I see people that bonus people the way they would like to be bonused. If they're very financially driven, they give everybody a big financial bonus. Whereas sometimes it's less expensive to give people what they actually want, which may be that extra day off or that extra week off,
Right.
or using up all your frequent flyers to give it to your staff, or things like that. But I think asking makes a big difference. And it sounds like you intuited some of it and you asked some good questions about what people really wanted. Yeah, I've had a couple of companies that I've worked with where they really surveyed what it is that people wanted and discovered that there's only two or three things that most employees want, which are very different than what management tends to want. Employees tend to want more time with their families. They want more vacation time. They want to be able to afford vacations. They want to have a vehicle that works well. They want to have a
Right.
home, and they want the kids to go to college. So if you figure out which of those things really matter to them by, of course, asking or intuiting from their behavior, you're going to have people that are a lot more loyal than just throwing money at people, which statistically, people leave because they have a manager or an owner they don't like, and they'll stay for somebody that they feel cares about them. But money, whenever they do those surveys about how are people motivated, money is always like eighth or something. And a lot of having a leader that they respect, and having time with family, a lot of those things come way higher up than money. So I like the fact that you didn't incentivize people just by saying, if you work 12 hours a day 7 days a week for the rest of your life, we'll give you more money. So I think
And we do. I mean, listen,
well,
we're
not that they're going
yeah,
to turn money down. Money, I'm sure
right.
you gave
Well,
them. If
right.
you're making more, I'm sure you're able to give them more. But I like the fact
Absolutely.
that you were putting some effort into it, and they could
It's the
tell. Yeah.
right, the thoughtfulness, and even on a day-to-day
Yeah.
basis is, just picking up lunch or whatever it
Yeah.
might be, is buying lunch once or twice a week, or if they're coming in on a weekend, is buying breakfast, buying lunch, or if they're staying
At least
late,
they're, at
is
least
picking
they're
up dinner.
fed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Or
makes it
sending them
one.
home
All of
and
those things, those meals cost
sending
money,
them. Yeah, they all cost money, but yeah, it's not as much as losing an employee. Yeah.
right?
Or
Or
sending,
driving somebody home
but I
is
was gonna say, yes, anybody, somebody home, and we off anybody who stays past a certain time where it's dark, it doesn't, we send
right.
them home in an Uber or a cab.
Yeah, I mean, those are
Lovely.
simple things that make a big difference because,
Mhm.
I truly care. It's not an act. Is like I know
Right. Those are
without
your
that,
values.
right, our
Yeah.
business wouldn't exist. So, I make a
Yeah.
point like, these they are my friends is, and some people may disagree with that philosophy is that, your employees can't be your friends, but this is my team. They're my teammates. They trust me. I trust them. And it's not that we can't have difficult conversations, and it's not that in the end it's not my business, and I'm foregoing the decision making. It's like, but like I don't know if somebody is going to help you be successful and is going to give their all. I don't know how they're not your friend. That's the most you
I
could
think
possibly ask of a friend.
I think, that's something that really does deserve your respect and admiration, and you obviously give it. I also hear, I know you have a military background. I know you were in the Marine Corps. I know that you've been surrounded with teams. Do you ever find yourself incorporating some of the teamwork lessons that you got from the military into your current teamwork? I hear some of those themes being married to a military guy. Is that ever conscious for you, or is that just something that I'm picking up from the outside?
I don't know how much of it's conscious anymore. I think I was a very different leader when I was in the service, and not one that I admire, quite honestly.
You learned enough to be a better leader, a better version of yourself now, which is also admirable. Yeah.
Yeah, I
To
was
learn some
not,
things there.
yeah, I wasn't a good leader when I was in the service. I led by my rank. I tried to exert authority that I hadn't really earned the respect of. I mean, there were certain things that I did on the outside that made me look like a good leader, but
Mhm.
inherently I wasn't.
Well, you were young. When you were
I
young.
was
I mean,
young.
I
I
don't
was
think,
young. I was
yeah, I don't think
inexperienced.
anybody's fit. Yeah, I don't think anybody wakes up, I don't think people are born goo goo gaga. Now I know how to be a fantastic leader. You learn by making some mistakes, and it sounds like you made a couple. And it's one I'm hearing is, yeah, I led by, hey, I'm this rank, therefore they're going to respect me, rather than
Right.
it doesn't matter what my I could be 10 ranks above them. I'm still going to need to earn that respect, which you seem to be doing now. So it sounds more like, rather than some of the lessons you learned there were things not to do, that you flipped around for yourself in this situation. Is that what I'm hearing?
Oh, 100%. I mean, and it
Oh,
probably took me well
congratulations.
into my
Oh,
30s before I really understood
okay.
how bad a leader I was. Um,
Oh,
I mean,
I have
but
trouble imagining that because you're awesome at it now.
but
But
it,
I
but
think that's how you learn, right? Is by
yeah,
making mistakes. Yeah,
it
for
was a
sure.
lot of, just sort of, I don't know, self-realization, self-assessment is, being very honest with myself and how the outside world perceived me. And it wasn't the legacy that I wanted to leave is, and that's really important to everything that I
Wow.
do, is that I don't have children. I'm not married. My legacy is going to be the people that worked with me, worked for me, or I worked for. And maybe that's part of, my one dimensionality. It's like, but that's, my profession, regardless of what career that I've done, is that's where I impact people. And at some point, when I'm gone, I want people to say nice things about me. I want them to have respected me. I want them to say to their children, is like, oh, I used to work with this guy. I used to work for this guy. And this is what he taught me, or he was so special, and this was thoughtful. And so that's the stuff, that's the stuff that motivates me, because that's the only legacy that I will have.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that's how I try to perform. And if I think about who I was in the Marine Corps, that is not a legacy that I want to leave in this world. So I don't know. I mean, it may sound corny, but it's truly how. And listen, it's not like I don't revert back to some of those initial natural inclinations. It's like I catch myself. I did something like that last week with a
Suddenly you're the
vendor.
drill sergeant, right?
Like, that's not the person.
Well,
There
in the
was a better way to
military,
handle that.
well, in the military, you're dealing with people where if they don't blindly follow you, they could die. I mean, it's very, very, very serious stuff. But obviously, the company could do very poorly or die if everybody's not pulling together. But it is a different world, and it sounds like you really learned some things about how you wanted to connect with others, and how you wanted your world to be in terms of the legacy you'd like to leave. And I,
Right.
I think we all should focus on what kind of person do we need to be? What kind of leader do we need to be? What kind of impact do we need to have in order to leave the legacy of the people around us, whether that's at home for people who maybe do have a family, or for people who their family is at work. And I think to an extent, your family, people always say, oh, this business is a family. Well, it's not literally, it's like a family. But you've
Right.
created a family friend atmosphere where people feel like they can be authentically themselves. And that's a big change from the drill sergeant style, or whatever
Yeah.
your negative was that you had way back when, years and years and years ago. What
But
a
that's
lovely
also a
evolution.
family in itself. I mean, listen,
Oh,
I'm very attached to the veteran community, particularly to
yeah.
Marines within my veteran community. And
Mhm.
there is a brotherhood, there's a family, there are people that
Yeah.
I am connected to in a Chicago Marine Corps Facebook group, people that I've never met, but I could go out and ask for help. And I have with the business where I've needed, some additional labor. And these people just, they come out in droves, is like, yeah, absolutely, or whatever it might be. So, it's like, I wouldn't dismiss the family element of the military either. It takes a different shape,
Right.
and the conversations are slightly different, and some colorful choice words that are part of our lexicon,
I've
but it's a
noticed that.
family nonetheless. And
Yeah.
so,
So if you think of it as being like your business being like a family, or like in the military being a part of a long established honorable tradition of the Marine Corps, or my husband's case, the in the Army. But yeah, I can see where you learned something about the power of teamwork and the power
yeah.
of that family like experience of asking for help when you need help, or giving help when once one of your brothers or sisters or teammates at work, however you want to call them, are in need. And I like the sort of flat style that you have developed over the years. The less hierarchical style is really interesting, that you've learned this. Hey, if they're going to be here, I'm going to be here too. I may not be the one printing, but I will do them the respect of putting in the extra hours and putting in the extra time, if that's what's appropriate. So yeah, I love how you've grown, and I love the fact that you're so candid about having grown. I'm sure you learned a lot of positive things in the military. Obviously, the brotherhood, sisterhood, military aspect, family aspect of it has stuck with you, and you have brought that over into your company. And some of the things that you did that you now look back on and think, oh boy, that wasn't necessarily the greatest, and that you've really evolved by taking the time to look at it. And I think we all need to evolve into being the kind of leader that our team deserves. And you have a great team, and they deserve that from you. I think you're a fabulous leader, and I know your team has great and profound respect for you, as do the rest of us.
Thank you.
Any parting words for people that, again, if you had to get your best advice, would be any one particular thing, or anything you would share with somebody that was growing rapidly as you have? Got any good advice for them?
I think it's finding good mentors. I think it's finding, that's always been important, is we've aligned ourselves over the years with a lot of good people. And, we've taken time to take lessons, whatever somebody who's willing to offer, may not have understood at the time, but to really seek good people out. And I think one of the other powerful things is the power of no. is is as you're going through your growth, and particularly, in a service-based business, I mean, we all have clients, is being able to quickly identify the people that don't align with your values and telling them, no, we can't work with you, is because they distract, they suck the energy, they distract, and it's not worth it. No amount of money is like, my business partner and I, Rebecca, we want to work with good people. We want to work with people that, yeah, again, that they align with our values, and that we enjoy getting on the phone with, or having an email exchange, and where we feel safe to say, hey, we screwed up, and where they feel safe to say they screwed up, and knowing that we're gonna take care of each other in that process. And we don't want adversarial, you know, client partner relationships. And so, I think those are the two things, as I sort of look back at our last 9 years, that are really the strongest. I mean, listen, it's like, I met you through this process of aligning ourselves with good people. And as I did a lot of other people, and it's been such a wonderful motivational, and support structure for us. And you can't pay for that. And so, and then also the power of saying no. It's like, no client is going to own me, and they're not worth my sanity, and they're not worth, sleepless nights, and it's not worth, what impact they're going to have on me, because the anxiety they place on me, I know I'm going to transfer and transmit to my team to make, them anxious, anxious
Right.
about
And then
delivery.
how stressed out are they dealing with that problem client? You know somebody's going to be trouble right from the beginning. Don't take them. And it's not even good financially for in the business sense, because what you find is those are the ones that usually nickel and dime every single thing. They
Right,
don't pay their bills all the time, or they're difficult in 1,000 different ways. And I always say one of two things are going to happen. Either they love you and they give you, referrals to people who are just as awful as they are, and then your whole business starts being filled up with people you
right,
really shouldn't be working with because they're not a great fit, or they are nothing but trouble, and then they want their money back, or they want to make things difficult, or they take over everybody on your team's time so that they can't go acquire anything else. So yeah, I think it's just not worth it. And it's tough, I think, for people who are just getting started to say, no, I don't think we're really a fit for you. Let me give you some names of
right,
other people I think would probably be better for your needs, because you think on some level, oh my gosh, we'll never get another, well, this customer is slipping away, we're losing money, but you're not losing money. You're gaining the space to be able to have that big boom happen and be prepared for it.
right,
And that everybody you're working with, you love and is energizing. And so you have to put in those extra few hours every day. And it's not a burden or a chore. It may be a bit exhausting physically, but at least you love I think you should love your clients and your
right.
customers. I think you should actively choose them. So I'm totally with you.
Yeah.
I agree
I
entirely.
think,
I think that's a
yeah,
great
and I
point.
think
Thank you.
I think the third one is actually is you only need to get so big. It, which
Yeah.
there's only so much anybody needs in this life. And,
Yeah.
well, it's interesting because we lived a life of austerity our first several years. Is I had not drawn a salary, is I learned to give up a lot of the, not just the luxuries, but really the necessities or what you'd consider necessities of, when I was in the private sector and drawing a salary and had all these benefits. As we've come out of that, I realized I didn't need a lot of that stuff. And
Mhm.
there's really only so much that you do need is, now it's like we're both, my business partner and I are both living comfortably. We're fine. It's like we're back to sort of the old days before we started it. But there's only so much that I think we both realize is that there's only so much that you need. And to
Mhm.
be driven by acquisition and getting bigger, and part of it is driven by the ego, part of it is driven by like, oh, I used to have this and I need this again. And I don't know, it's like, just like I don't want any clients to own me, I also don't want my possessions to own me. And I'm not going to say it's not nice to have things, and I feel
Right.
a lot better now that I can have a
Yeah.
couple of those luxuries.
Yeah, well, and there's a great study that was done like about, I don't know, about 8 or 9 years ago, and it came out and said that once people reach a level of financial stability, which for different regions would be obviously different parts of the world would be different amounts, but where they can afford to, eat and have a vehicle and have put their kids through college if that's something that they want to do, or, retire, they've got enough, in most cultures, the amount varies, of course, but once you hit that point, your level of happiness does not go up from there.
Right,
It does not go up from there. Now, if you're below that level and you're in poverty and you're really, really struggling, well, then obviously your happiness would be highly impacted. But above that, your happiness is not going to go up by making two, three, four, five times as much money as you're making. It's not going to go up. But you then can start to shift and look at legacy, look at how do I want this, how do I want this company to be long after I'm gone? How do I want the world to be long after I'm gone? Are there charitable things that I would like to do? Are there,
right,
are there legacy things that I would like to do? And those are truly fulfilling. And I think you're starting to shift to, okay, now we're making great money again, which is lovely. I can, buy a few toys, and that's always, that's pleasure, that's lovely, but it's not fulfillment, and it's not that pride and that joy and that sense of really making a difference. And you have made a difference within the lives of the people that get to work with you. And what's lovely is now you get to sort of enjoy the fruits of your labor for all of these years. And any of us who've ever started a business, we've all had to, I mean, every one of us has had to give up a salary for a few years or had to cut way back on things. And it's not a bad exercise because it really does teach you what you really need versus what you just kind of
You think you
want.
want, right?
What you think you want. Yeah. I mean, restore how many cars do you need to be restoring at any one given time? You have one and it sounds beautiful and I can't wait to see it. But yeah, I think that those are things are pleasurable. And more and more they're discovering that, getting a new car, it has people are excited about it for about a week and then they forget that they're driving a new car. So all
Right.
of those things are pleasure, but they're really short term. The long term joy in life really comes from that making a difference in the lives of others and that sense of teamwork that we have with other people. And I think you're starting to see the difference in the power in legacy. And that if that comes in financial waves for you, yeah, it's great. You can buy another car to restore. But the important thing again is how you I can tell is how you treat others and how you as a company treat your customers in a way that makes them feel the uniqueness and the specialness of who they are and that they can be authentic. They can have problems and you will support them. And you guys can be not perfect and
It's a
they'll
safe space
support
for
you.
everybody.
Yeah,
But
no, but it is true. It is true. I mean, if there are going to be problems, there are going to be mistakes that are made. And if you can't go to a client and say, hey, this wasn't quite right, but hey, we're going to make it right for you,
right,
just want to let you know. And if they don't feel like, hey, we were supposed to tell you this a month ago, we totally messed up, can you still help us out? If that dialogue can't be there, then have you don't have a level of trust where you can really get what the client needs to them and support them in the way they need to be supported. Interesting also study that I read a couple of years ago is that if you make a mistake in your business and you handle it honorably, you deal with it, you tell them, and you overcome it to the best of your ability, they're 11 times more likely to refer you business and
right,
17 times more likely to stay with you and keep doing business with you than if you had just done a normal good job.
right. Well, there's authenticity, there's integrity. I think it demonstrates the individual and the business's character.
Oh, yeah,
So
that's a good way to put it.
I don't
Yeah.
really I
Mm.
I never want to make mistakes because you don't want to look incompetent.
No,
Like it's much
no,
easier just to get the stuff out.
I
But
would love to
when
be
it
perfect.
does come to that, it's like, and I know, and we've certainly screwed up, but we fix it.
And it's not too often. I mean, again, if
It's
you did
not
it
too
over and over and over again, you're gonna lose a client no matter how
right.
nice you are about it. But once in a while, it's bound to happen. And it's not what happens, it's how do you clean that up and can you do that as honorably as possible?
Right.
So yeah, it's really, really, really interesting. But I think that, yeah, I think, yeah, you're right. Your legacy isn't going to come from just how many dollars you have. Now, more dollars is great and a bigger business is great. It helps your employees. You can hire more people. You could do more things. You can have a charitable arm of your business. A lot of neat things that you can do. And I'm sure you
Yeah.
guys will grow and see those things happening. But once you've hit that level where everybody's doing okay, not putting 100% focus on growth, growth, growth at the expense of your own well-being and the well-being of your people,
There
very
has to be an
smart. And that's
equilibrium.
longevity. That's
Right.
and that is the legacy. That's how you keep a business afloat for the long term.
It's
So
sustainable and there's an equilibrium, there's the balance. I'd say,
yeah,
and probably the one other way that I guess, besides from money, how I gauge our success, and it sounds so ridiculous, but it's the hugs that we get. Literally when we walk
love
in and
it.
see a client
I love that.
is, you know,
Hugs.
is the hugs. It's like when a client or a partner wants to give you a hug, and that could be a guy or a girl. It's like, a bro hug or
Yeah.
whatever is I think it reinforces that there's a connection, there's an affection, there's a trust. It's a lot different than just shaking hands, is that somebody really wants to bring you in tight and you're part of their circle. So
Mhm.
I always use that as a way to gauge, like, is it a good relationship?
Yeah.
It's now it sounds, I
It
don't know.
doesn't, I think that's actually really, really clever It's really clever. Again, have you done enough for a client and, made them feel supported and bailed them out of mistakes they've made? And how, do you have enough of a relationship with that employee or with that client or with that business partner, Rebecca, to a point where they're just so happy to see you that they want to give you a
Yeah.
hug. Whereas another vendor, they might be like, yeah, send them an email, whatever.
Right. I mean, particularly when you've only worked with them on the
Yeah.
phone or via email and they're
Yes.
seeing
Or,
you
or
for the first
Zoom.
time.
Yeah. Zoom, and more Zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like that's such a great human connection, which, I think so much of that has been lost in the last several years. I think a lot of things have just changed in society. So, it's
Mhm.
just great to have that human connection again.
Yeah. Are they delighted to see you? Or are they like, hey, you did something that's nice, goodbye.
Right.
So I think we should make more of the human connection. And, you are looking at your business as a way to be the best you can for other people. And that's always a value that I'll admire. So thank you for being on the show. I thank you for your words of wisdom. I always love seeing you. I wish I could hug you because you're awesome and you deserve all the hugs.
Virtual hug.
Virtual hug man, virtual hug man. There you go. And but thank you so much. We here on the Inspiring Victory show, where we help you to not only inspire others, but double your business, double your impact, and change the world. Thank
Double
you
your
again,
hugs.
Eric. And double your hugs. I love that. All right. Thanks, Eric. Nice to see
Thanks.
you. I
Appreciate
appreciate
it.
it.
Bye.
Please like, subscribe, share, write a comment. It makes a huge difference with how many people we can reach here at the Inspiring Victory Show, and it makes a big difference to me personally. I want to make sure that we're providing content to as many people as we possibly can so they can grow and succeed. So double your business, double your impact, and change the world. And thank you so much for being a part of this extraordinary community.
Let's take a moment to thank our sponsor, Marites Bott of Bott & Associates.
Hi, I'm Marites Bott of Bott & Associates. We specialize in estate planning, probate, trust administration, and Medicaid planning. We work hard to help families make sure that their hard-earned assets get to their families at the right time, managed by the person that you would like it to be managed by, and handled at the very least possible cost, without the extra cost of probate and the IRS. Every day I get to work with families who are worried. What are they worried about? Well, they're worried about going broke from nursing home costs. They're worried about who will take care of their young children in case they are not around. They're also worried about potential ex-son-in-laws or ex-daughters-in-law getting their assets. Sometimes they're worried about a special needs child. Who's going to take care of them? And last, they're worried about people fighting, their families fighting over the money. I am passionate about giving our clients peace of mind that all their worries have been taken care of. When you come to our office, we guide you to make choices that are in the best interests of your loved ones. As a courtesy to our family, we provide free legacy wealth seminars. There we educate you on the difference between wills and trusts and what's best for your family. This is just free information on this topic with no obligation. Check out our website for upcoming events. I get asked a lot of times, why am I different? And how I explain that is really that I care and I listen and I'm really empathetic to all my clients. When people come to my office, they feel that they can actually tell me about their family members and tell me all the different things that is going on, especially about the troubled ones or issues that they might be dealing with. So I'm always there to help them and hold their hand, and if there's any events in the future that can happen, I'm there as well to listen to them. So I think that's what makes me different. At the end of the day, it's all about family. When me and my family immigrated here from the Philippines, I know what the sacrifice was for my parents to make it in America. We at Bott & Associates want to help you and your family. For further information, please call us or check out our website.